In this session, we'll cover supplier color development processes. Matching a new color standard can be a challenge, but somehow the die mill responds to a color development request by providing a lab dip that is generally a close match to a color standard. Of course, there are always exceptions depending on the color of the standard and the product performance requirements. In this webinar, we will walk through the steps used and challenges faced by a die mill in matching a new shade. We will also explore use of the theoretical reflectance curves to improve the color development processes. So, how do we achieve a new color in the die mill? We will walk through the steps used and the challenges faced by a die mill in matching a new shade. What tools and methods are used to achieve a shade? Who will make these decisions and why? A die mill receives a standard either as a sample to be measured with a spectrophotometer or a QTX file that contains the measurement data or fingerprint of that color. This sample is measured with a spectrophotometer or imported into the color matching or QC for its reflectance values. Important to note, samples are not received without instructions. A trained lab person must know, for example, what type of fabric the standard color is to be matched on, which light sources or luminance the sample are to be matched under, sample presentation, calibration conditions, what types of dyes to use, what dyes can be used together, what finishing properties it should have, light fastness and wash fastness requirements. These criteria and many others will determine how a color is achieved. All of this must be assessed by a trained lab person for successful matching of a color. First, lab personnel may check their database with Datacolor tools and/or Datacolor Match to see if the color has been measured and matched before. If it has, days and possibly weeks can be cut off the development process. Let's first take a look at search in tools and match textiles. Here in Datacolor tools, we have imported a standard from the customer, V0002 Elephant. We'll now search the database to see if we can find colors close to this. We'll click on Search. V002 Elephant is highlighted and Standards and Batches is chosen. We will click on Execute Search. It will tell us that the search is complete and there are a number of samples that match the elephant to a varying degree. If we highlight these samples and click OK, it will bring these samples to the desktop and we can examine them for metamerism, or how they look under the different light sources. We can then check each sample to see how they were dyed, and if they match the dyeing method for the sample that the customer sent in, we can see if we can use this color for production. Next, we will examine search in Match Textile. This search will be more specific because it will include not only the color, but the specific style and dye stuffs used to make that color. And now to search for our customer standard in Match Textiles. We will search our approved recipes to see if we can find any that are close to the customer standard. We'll enter through the Recipe button. And once in Recipe, we'll click on the menu button Search Recipes. Then we will browse for the standard that the customer has sent in. It's Elephant. Next, we'll select the affinity, which tells us a little bit about the composition of our fabric. So we tie that together. It's polyester textured. And then we'll do search to see if we have any recipes that have been done that are close to this color. And we find one, medium gray. And the DE is 0.29578, which is pretty close. So we could send a sample of that medium gray that's already been done instead of having to do a bunch of development. So we can right click on medium to gray and do Save as New Recipe, and we can call it V002 Elephant. Search. And And yes, save it, and we could show it and see what it is. And close it. And this is a good way to find our approved recipes that are close to customer standards. If we did not find anything, we would have to do a match, and we can go through matching a shade next. Now to match a shade in Match Textile. Once again, we'll enter through Recipe. Once in Recipe, on the menu bar, we'll select Match. You'll first then need to select the style that you're matching this color under. So that is polyester 2075. Then listed below are our dye sets. We've got Dispersol and Disperse Terrasil. And Disperse Terrasil is the one that is selected, so that's the one that we'll use to match with. Next, we will select our standard that we want to match, and that is our V002 Elephant. After this, we'll look at our die set to see what dyes are available. And in this case, we have a requirement from the customer that the wash fastness must be greater than 3. So we'll put in greater than 3 and accept the limits there. And it will select the dyes for us. We could do this manually, but this will select it for us. It'll select all the dyes with a wash fastness of greater than 3. Okay. There's also light fastness as well, perspiration, and other things you can add as far as the dye characteristics going forwards. Once we selected the dyes, we can go to Lab Graphic. This displays graphically the coverage area of all our dyes that we selected. And inside or underneath of it should be, or is, our standard. You see our standard over here. Okay. The last tab is the Settings tab, and that's important because this is where we can select the illuminants that we are matching under for this customer. So this customer is D65 is a primary illuminant, secondary is A10, and third is FO2. So that's selected correctly. The other thing that we need to make sure that we select is metamerism optimized recipes. So that means it's not going to just match for the first, second, and third illuminant. It will match and optimize which formulas it displays by optimizing the metamerism between those 3 illuminants. Okay. So now once we've done that, we've got our settings correct. CLab for our tolerance formula, or CMC if we'd like. We can do calculate. And we will see our list of formulas here. We've got first formula here, 0.37 under D65, and the metamerism 2.33 and 0.45. We look here, the second one, the DE is 2.65 for D65, and metamerism of 0.98 and 0.57. So there are differences in these, and they have 6 total formula choices. We can sort the formulas on other important attributes, such as the price. We could click on price, and it will sort for the lowest price first, if we like, or color constancy, meaning that this match is color constant over the 3 illuminants. We could select that one, or we can just reset the sort order, and that will reset it to how it came in, optimized on metamerism and in the order of D65A and F2. Okay. We could also at this point, if we wanted to send a couple of recipes just to see if the customer liked those, we could right click and add trial. So we could select more than one recipe here. We could right click and theoretical reflectance. We could create a theoretical curve of what that dyeing will be like and send that to the customer, see if they would like that. Or we could do the same thing on this one and send a theoretical reference for this to see which starting formula they would like to work with. Okay, so once those are chosen, let's say these two recipes were the ones we'd like to try, we can click on Save. And it's V00 elephant. Trial. And we, of course, can pick the customer. Say our customer is Red Bull Dyers. We can add customers as we need them and save it under the customer. And we can show both recipes if we want. Show. And we see the first recipe and then the second recipe. And we can close. And then close here. And then that elephant trial is the first one on our list because it is the most recent. So we'll do our dyeings on this recipe, and once it's done, if it doesn't match the standard, we have a way to come up and do a lab correction. So lab correction, pass fail correction, and then it saves the recipe that we picked as the first one, and we can browse or measure in how our recipe came out. Okay. That's okay, elephant. And it passed. So if it passed, we can approve that recipe so it's searchable. Or if we want to get it a little bit closer, we can click on Laboratory and get a new recipe here. And then save. We have shown how to search for colors and recipes in data color tools and match textiles. We will once again look to the variables we may face when searching and matching colors. Not all colors can be achieved. Some colors can be achieved under one fiber like nylon, but not under others like cotton or polyester. In this case, the submit must be a best can do submission. A spectrophotometer with match textiles and data color tools is a great method for limiting variables and achieving a customer color, but a trained lab person must know how to recognize these variables. A trained lab person must be able to pick the best recipe for metamerism, light fastness, wash fastness, cost, production viability, and they also must be able to submit theoretical curves to the customer. Lastly, one of the greatest obstacles in color matching is metamerism. Metamerism is when the perceived color difference between two samples under one light source is not the same when the same samples are viewed under a second light source. Unless the standard and sample are dyed using the same dyes, you will have some level of metamerism, so a perfect match under all light sources is all but impossible. This must be managed. Data color match textiles and data color tools help to select and create formulas to minimize these differences. But the only way to change the metamerism is to change the recipe that the sample was dyed under. Want to learn more? Sign up at Data Color Academy for classroom-style lectures and demonstrations covering useful color topics in select venues around the globe. Want more useful reading material? Follow Data Color blog. Also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.